This Women's Month discussion is about female reproductive health and pleasure. Joining us is the author of A Guide to Sexual Health and Pleasure, Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng. She's a lead consultant at Nalane for Reproductive Justice. Well, yesterday, President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed her as one of 9 women to the Commission for Gender Equality. We are lucky enough to have her with us. Dr. Tlaleng, good evening, and thanks for making the time. You're so busy with book launches and all of these things that are.
And congratulations on your new spot.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very big change for us. Now, tell us about this new role, firstly, before we talk about your book, as a commissioner to the Commission for Gender Equality. What does that role mean for you?
I think, really just taken from the mandate of the CGE. It's only now just day 2 of induction, so I definitely can't speak on their behalf. But I think for me, it's a personal journey, one that feeds into the work that I've been doing on sexual and reproductive health and rights. Merging the global work, from the United Nations to the, from the U.S. Senate, where I've briefed Congress on a number of issues and how those affect us locally. So it's a great honor, and I think it's a privilege and a job I'm ready for, to really deepen the local impact and just grow the movement for gender equality in the country.
Well, let me touch this book. Let me have a look at it. So for those who might be who might be thinking that this is a 2019 version of the Kama Sutra, it isn't, right?
No, it definitely isn't. I am a medical doctor.
So what are you telling women in this book? And men as well, I suppose. Men should be reading this as well.
It's important to let the readers know that they inspired this book. So the questions that they've been asking me when they see me in the malls, in the shopping centers, in the cinemas, when we are out, clubbing, all of the questions are answered in this book. And they range, because in my community service years, I had young people asking me specifically, how do I break up with a boyfriend? How do I negotiate safe sex? The contraceptive I'm on, I'm not sure if my libido is affected. All the way ranging to the issues of consent and, of course, sexual pleasure. How do I enhance my the experience of being sexual and sensual? And also, I think the book really gives people an unshackling of the mind and the body, especially because we know women's bodies are so policed, right? Everyone has an opinion on what we should or shouldn't do, and I hope with this book we can bring back the issue of pleasure into the topics around health and wellness.
Well, I see it answers sort of some basic questions that somebody might be scared to even or be ashamed at times, and wrongfully ashamed, I suppose, as well, to talk to their best friends about, or their mum, or even their doctors. So I see it's got some very basic, to the point things as well. Were you surprised at what women were grappling with when it comes to their sexuality?
I was incredibly surprised.
In 2019, you would think we're very sexually liberated, right?
And what still surprises me is how often a solution is just to affirm someone, is to say, yes, you actually do have a right to pleasure, or yes, you are right, the medication you are on is causing you to have a decreased libido, for example. And a lot of young people, unfortunately, are still experiencing, a schooling curriculum or a family situation or caregivers who withhold information from them. So the book really goes as far as saying to people, here is evidence-based information, here is the information based on my experience as a young South African woman, but also as a medical doctor working in South Africa, and these are the issues that we have, cultural, religious, and this is how, in my experience, these have influenced how we think of our bodies, how we place and put a hierarchy to pleasure, whose body is this and whose pleasure does belong to. And so with the book, I share a lot of my own experiences, which is often important.
Right.
When you're asking people to be vulnerable, you kind of have to bring yourself there also,
Well, I'm just paging through here, and I see you've also linked sex with illnesses, and how sex and diabetes, sex and cancer as well. And I'm assuming, yes, you've chatted to people who've been through all of this and just told them, how do you cope? It doesn't mean you don't do these things because you're sick.
Exactly. Right? And we often stigmatize people who have chronic illnesses, to often say, but you're sick, why are you even interested in pleasure? And, sexual health and well-being is part of a holistic person who's well, and it's important to talk about diabetes, cancer, to talk about endometriosis, all of those fibroids, all the issues that affect not just women, by the way. There's a lot of sections around male sexual health as well, but it's how you infuse, for example, rights into it. How do you infuse a new lens at looking at pleasure despite having an illness? People, we know the statistics, road accidents, we count the deaths, but how many people are surviving with spinal cord injuries and they need assistance? How do I learn how to have sex with a spinal injury?
So this addresses all of that.
It does.
Fantastic.
It does.
Men, women, And of course, you have to be of a legal age, I suppose, to read this. So, yes, at that age.
It's a medical book. I mean, parental guidance, but it really is a medical book. It's not a step-by-step how to have sex, but it's everything around how we are having sex, the decisions we are making, and all the health issues.
About time, and well done. Dr. T, she's Dr. T. That's the book. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vika.
And it's out in stores already, right?
Yes, and that's your copy, so I'll be signing it for you.
Sign this for me before you go. Thank you very much, Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng, author of A Guide to Sexual Health and Pleasure, here with us on South Africa Tonight. Still